Started with our next panel, which is clean soil, clean ingredients, clean beauty. We're going to learn about the connection between sustainable farming, natural ingredients, and a movement that promotes a healthier planet and a more conscious approach to beauty. This is moderated by Wanda Malhorta, founder of CMB Certification Program. Wanda brings over 30 years of global wellness expertise. Her program sets the gold standard for clean, sustainable, and socially responsible brands. Thank you.
Thank you for that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I know it's very close to lunchtime, so we will not exceed the 30 minutes. We promise, right? Everybody's stomach is probably rumbling. Mine is. So we are going to talk about something that's really important. We had the food as medicine. Dr. Perricone is really popular here. He's like in all the panels, I think, today. What we feed our bodies through our skin is also just as important as what we eat. So the clean soil and how it affects the beauty products that we are using on our bodies is very important and essential that we understand the connection and how the agriculture today is affecting our skincare products. So we will start with Dr. Perricone again. He's going to introduce himself for those that weren't here for the food as medicine.
Is this working? Okay. Well, is it good morning or good afternoon? I'm a medical doctor and I'm also a nutritionist, and it's a rather unusual combination because there's not even one course in nutrition being taught in medical school. I came across in my research that basically inflammation was at the basis of aging and aging-related diseases, and that was 25 years ago. And the problem with scientists and the medical community is new ideas are not accepted at first. And so it was a hard time during getting this whole thing out. So I kind of gave up on the submitting manuscripts to the journals because they got rejected. So I wrote my first book for the public. And I had actually a scientific title to it. And the editor said, no, we're going to call this The Wrinkle Cure. I said, well, this is not going to trivialize that. They said, no, they're going to love it. So it worked out well. I did get the message out to the people, and now here it is 25 years later, and inflammation, aging, and disease is now well accepted by the medical community, but there's always more challenges. And of course, food is incredibly important to us, and if the food has to be pure, and we know that with the number of chemicals in the air getting into the soil, it's picked up by the plants, which then concentrate it. So we have to really be careful about what our sources are. And the other thing too is there are many things we can do besides that, but I think that good lifestyle and then drinking water is critical. And I'm a big fan of hydrogen water because it's an antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, actually acts as a detoxicant, and it's easy to do, and it raises levels of energy in the body. And so it's something we can just get out there. And I've been handing it out now for about 8 years. And I didn't want to tell you the stories I've heard because it sounds like it's snake oil, but it works just about in everything if you have a deficit. But start drinking hydrogen water. Let's get it to everybody. It's going to drop inflammation in the body. Inflammation, of course, and inflammation does accelerate the aging process, increases your risk of all diseases. So clean food, regular water, clean water, and then, of course, hydrogen water is probably one of the keys that I think at this point. But thank you. That's a little story. I could bore you for hours if I tell you about the history, but I'll turn this over to someone more interesting than I am.
Ian Lehrman.
Hi. I don't know if this, yeah. So I'm Ian Lehrman. I'm the founder and the CEO of Emergency Skincare. We have our signature range, our scientific organics range, and our raw pharmaceuticals range. And I would agree with everything that Dr. Perricone said about nutrition and about soil and everything else. We try to take an industry leading role. We try to source naturally where we can, organically where we can. We think of fair trade, which also includes farming practices. We started an industry first buy one, plant one tree planting program where we plant a tree for every product that we sell. And we're actually tying the prevention of 4 ounces of plastic from entering coastal waters with every purchase. So we're thinking on a lot of different ways. We're using wind power. We gave away lots of organic seeds to people with every order and metal straws to reduce plastic consumption. We're just trying to think about doing business in a different way. We're making high quality, effective products, which are what people want, but we're thinking about our sustainability at every step of the way. I'll pass to you now.
Hi everyone, my name's Catherine Pye and haven't got a microphone. I'm representing Wildsmith Skin. So we're, by my accent, I guess you know, we're a British skincare brand and we've just launched in the US. I'm very happy to be here today. So we grow a lot of our own ingredients for our skincare and we grow biodynamically. If you've ever planted a seed on the day that it should be planted as against a root day or a flower day, the plant will manifestly perform much better. So it's absolutely amazing. So we make hydrolats, which go into our ingredients. Our name comes from a botanist called William Walker Wildsmith, and he was known as a restless experimenter. And that's what we try to follow. And I always think that there's another way of doing things. And when people say you have to have plastic bottles because there is this transport and you can't do this, you can do things a different way. And I know we'll talk about packaging in a minute. And we have some very innovative packaging, but that's what we try to do. We try to be restless experimenters in ingredients, in packaging, and in storytelling to our customers.
Stay for the packaging because that is really cool. I love
have
what
it
you
in my
did.
pocket.
Okay, great. So now Ian McKee, he's coming in, participating from Brazil virtually.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, it's a pleasure to be here on this panel. Thank you so much. I come from the circular economy perspective. So our work is as the CEO and founder of Carrot, which is a blockchain network, we are essentially making sure that organic waste or food waste is properly going back to composting facilities so that we can then generate high quality compost, which can then regenerate our topsoil. As you may know, some scientists today tell us that our soil problem is bigger than our carbon problem in the atmosphere. And so we need to really find a way to regenerate our topsoil. And my goal really is to enable us to create at scale compost that can basically fix and close the loop on our nutrient cycle. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. So let's go to our first question. Clean soil is the foundation of clean beauty. We all agree on that. How do you believe the health of our soil impacts not only the quality and efficacy of skincare ingredients, but also the broader vision for sustainable beauty? Who would like to start answering? Dr. Paragon? All right.
Based on inflammation, I decided that I would start a skincare company, but have anti-inflammatories in this. So it was a bit of a challenge. It was a new idea, but what I approached it in a different way. So we all know that if we're taking a medication on a regular basis, it tends to lose its efficacy. It's called tachyphylaxis. And so the same thing can happen with your skincare. So, and the reason for that is the body has to compensate when there's foreign molecules. Now, there's no such thing for tachyphylaxis for the food we eat because we wouldn't be alive right now. So what I did, I used all food grade ingredients in my products and also used penetration enhancers, and it was anti-inflammatory. And it was really incredible in terms of what the results we saw when we did our studies. And I also used some precursors of something called acetylcholine, which is why I call my new book The Beauty Molecule. It increases tone because it works on the neuromuscular junctions. So the anti-inflammatory effects of the Paracone MD, I don't have the company anymore, so I can talk freely about it, but it was really incredible. It's now owned by a company in the UK. And I'm saying they're very happy that they purchased the company because they have not changed the formulations. They have not changed the packaging, and it's still, without a doubt, probably the most efficacious thing I've ever seen in my career. And so I think that inflammation is everything. So we have the anti-inflammatory diet, anti-inflammatory lifestyle, and topical anti-inflammatories, the way to stay young.
Very innovative. So Ian Linnerman, do you want to go on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the importance of soil is it can't be underestimated. When you have soil that has a proper microbiome, where it's been not being killed by pesticides and insecticides and fungicides and things like that, you're going to have much more nutrient dense soil. You're going to have better nutrition from the produce that is grown in that soil. By extension, if you're harvesting ingredients from nutrient rich soil, it's clearly going to be more effective. It's very simple. We are exposed to a lot of monoculture agriculture here. There's not proper crop rotation. There's a lot of pesticides, and even some of the sludge that gets put on as pesticide has been found to be incredibly toxic. And all sorts of farms across the country that didn't know they were putting this kind of toxic sludge on their soil as nutrients are going to have to deal with that for a long time. But the cleaner the soil, the cleaner the ingredient's going to be ultimately.
I would just add, I think it's just really important to buy organically certified product, because then at least you know a little bit more about what you're putting on your skin, because as Wanda said, what you put on your skin goes in your body.
I would just add, I think everything's been said here pretty much, but I would just add that traceability is really important. You know where the provenance of the materials are coming from, you know what is being put in the soil. You're addressing issues like PFAS, forever chemicals. You just, you know, we have to digitize these entire supply chains, and the supply chains don't begin or end you know, at the source of the agriculture, let's say, when the products are being born, but also what comes before it. So it's really about us knowing the full cycle of everything that's going into our products.
Excellent, excellent answers. When we compare regenerative agricultural practices and soil health policies, how does North America stand up to other regions such as the EU? What lessons can we learn from global approaches to farming and ingredient sourcing and beauty? Who wants, do you want to start, Ian McKee?
Myself, sure, happy to do so. I mean, I think, you know, the EU is far in advanced of the United States in many areas, you know, requiring sorting of food waste, for example, or requiring composting. And this is coming from my field specifically. But at the same time, when there's more regulation, let's say in Europe, in the US, you may have more advanced innovation and technology happening through companies that are really engaged in closing the loop or provenance of projects. You got a lot of beauty companies now that are investing directly in composting of operations and things of such. So I think, you know, from my perspective, it's innovation there is innovation happening in the US, but it's more decentralized, business driven, while in the EU you have more sort of top-down regulations.
I agree. Catherine, you want to chime in?
I think regulation is really important, but also there's the spirituality that is in biodynamic farming, and you feel that when you have that inside a product as well. So I would just add, I mean, I don't know about whether it's better. We're just scared of chlorinated chicken coming.
I agree with the spirituality and the energy.
I-
I truly believe in that.
So
Ian?
I would agree with a lot of what Ian said as well. Plus, he has a great name. Listen, in the U.S., this is a crazy free market country where there's not a lot of top-down legislation with respect to how we recycle, and we've been lied to a lot about how we've been recycling for decades now. But you see movements happening all over the country. Even in New York City now, it's sort of mandatory. There's not really any strict enforcement of it, but it's mandatory to compost now. You see information leaking out, and you see a consciousness rising in the country, you know, depending where you're reading, about where things are coming from and where things are going. And we try to take those things into consideration in our own brand. It's very hard to be perfect. We've always worked with the mantra, don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. And we just kind of keep pushing things forward in the right direction. It's very hard to move a country of 350 million people that's so divided. I think everybody has to try to work in their own community to try to make things better.
Dr. Perricone, we are getting a little pressed for time, so we're gonna just go a little faster because I do have a little surprise at the end, a little pop quiz. Do you want to chime into this one or do you want to go to the next one? Next one? Okay. Sustainability and beauty is about more than just packaging. How do initiatives like compostable packaging, which we already talked about a little bit, recycling, and tracking environmental impact influence the sourcing, production, and life cycle of beauty products?
Of course, this is all very important, and I want to talk about beauty products because I think they're critical. When we can do something, whether we're doing diet or we're using topicals, and we can actually change the way we look. And so my whole idea of using anti-inflammatories topically, it reduces risk of many things. So we're now doing some studies looking back on people who have been using these topical anti-inflammatories. And the initial data looks like there's a marked decrease in skin cancer if you're using it on a regular basis. And so part of the process is doing something that's positive, and anti-inflammatories are important. One thing I do want to say a little bit about supplements. Supplements are very important. I had supplements on the shelves at Nordstrom and along with the skincare because it was a complete program. But I do want to say that you've got to be careful with antioxidants because people take handfuls of vitamins every day. And there's something called, we know what oxidative stress is. That's the aging process. But if you're using too many supplements, you can have something called reductive stress. And not people don't know enough about that. So you have to be a bit balanced on what your approaches are because reductive stress is not a good thing for our bodies. And so we just use some sense and use balance. And once again, I think the approach is if you're creating a skincare or supplements, we know we can have a lot of positive effects. And I think that individuals who are doing this, I'm very much impressed with people and what they're doing as individuals to make sure they're having quality products as opposed to the huge corporations, which is more based upon profits and a lot of other things rather than thing. Once again, I think spirituality is really important, whatever you do, whether it's a topical or a supplement or the food you're eating. This is a critical part. And we've got to, as human beings, we have to understand that spirituality is a large part of our lives. And so we have to integrate all of this and we keep this in mind. And I think the most important thing we do is educate other people, try and make their lives better. And I think that's the way we should live. If we're not living for other people, we're doing something wrong.
With respect to packaging, traceability, things like that. So we think a lot about that in our company. Again, it's impossible to be perfect, but we've moved over the years all our jars and serum bottles to glass. We're hearing a lot more about plastics and microplastics, and it's been hard for us to eliminate them entirely. But we've moved all our jar caps to a biodegradable resin, and I'm curious to learn more about what you have too with respect to this, but we're thinking about these things all the time. We make most of our products with wind power. We run our offices on wind power. Even the packing peanuts we use are biodegradable. Where we've used plastic, we're using a so-called sustainably sourced sugarcane resin from Brazil. Eventually, we'd like to be 100% plastic free in that respect. We do work with reliable tree planting partners where we plant a tree, as I've mentioned, for every product that we sell. We try to transplant indigenous viable trees in non-harvest locations. With respect to traceability, we work with carbonfund.org to offset our carbon input, and I understand not all these things are entirely transparent, but this is one of the better organizations, and they do have traceability with respect to the projects they're doing. With our relatively newer partner of Clean Hub, which is based out of Germany, where we can track exactly what's going on with plastic retrieval. So even if we end up putting some plastic into the world, which we hope is a temporary thing, we know there's something like 50 points of trackability and traceability for every bit of plastic that's being retrieved. And it's being retrieved mostly in developing countries where a lot of the plastic ends up in the oceans because they don't have the budgets or the infrastructure to process that. So they're actually building in these communities, recycling plants, and it's all incredibly well documented every step of the way. So for us, it's a process. We're always trying to move forward. Again, we don't claim to be perfect. We're not there to preach. We're a niche brand that sort of punches above our weight and have some of the top spot partners in the country because they're looking for brands like that. And we're always trying to push things forward and shine a light in the industry. And we have other brands that follow some of our initiatives, and I wish they all did, because we're trying to do the right thing. We're privately owned. We don't have corporate paymasters. We try to achieve a work-life balance in our company, but all these things are contributing. We're thinking on multiple different levels. I think you have a very interesting packaging story, so I'm going to pass it to you.
Take it out of your pocket.
Thank you. So as our restless experimenters, I was 6 years ago, I joined the company and they said, I said, do we have a website? They said, yeah. I said, oh, what are the sales like? We said, they had one on Wednesday. So I thought, okay, fantastic. So the building I was in said, would you like to do a Christmas fair? Yes, I was there in a heartbeat with my little, thing to take the money. And next door to me, there's a company called Shellworks. Everyone needs to write this down, Shellworks. They were making packaging out of lobster shells and prawn shells, hence called Shellworks. It's a protein called chitin. They were making that. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to find them. It's going to be fantastic. And so we started partnering with them. And as they started to scale, they realized that most of the prawn and lobster shells come from Southeast Asia to the UK. So then this is not sustainable. So these very clever people pivoted and they have invented a product called they've called it proprietary, called Vivamere. This is the product. I'm going to pass it around to you. You can see this. So this is grown from microbes. So they take microbes and they feed it with bio oils. So they're also a sub from farming. And they grow that, and it grows just like when you've seen plastic being made into those little pellets, and then it goes through and is injection molded. So there it is. You can have a little look. And then when you put it into compost or into landfill, this has been in my garden for 4 months. You can see that the microbes eat itself. So Shellworks, those are the people who need to be the millionaires. When we launched the product in the UK, I decided not to do a press breakfast and say how clever is Wildsmith and how clever we all are. All I wanted to do was have Shellworks there. So to say to L'Oreal, blah, 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 this is what you should be doing, because they can't say there isn't an alternative, because there really properly is. So we're very excited to show it, but it's not about Wildsmith. It's about Shellworks and about the packaging and about not having to have plastic. Thanks. Yeah, why not?
Incredible work. Ian McKee, before you answer this question, I have another one on top that is going to be kind of directed to you. So I think he's here, right? I have to look here. I look at the screen. How is technology shaping the future of clean beauty, especially when it comes to tracking environmental impact and ensuring sustainable practices in ingredient sourcing and packaging, recycled packaging? I think that's really a question for you to answer. Everyone can answer, but I think Ian is doing an amazing work in Brazil, and he can explain that a little bit more to us.
Sure. Yeah. And not just Brazil, but very, very quickly, I think, everything today can be traced. The technology exists. There's nothing groundbreaking in terms of, our ability today to track supply chains and track recovery systems. So the important part about it is really getting everybody into this digital ecosystem and having the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, to be able to trace everything in place. So I'll just kind of take it down to an example very quickly. Like if you talk about compostable packaging, packaging is fantastic if it goes to a composting facility, right? If it's going into a landfill, then how good is that? It's not really going back into the soil in the proper way, and it's probably going to emit methane emissions in an anaerobic state. So we have to be able to track everything and to be able to create the incentives needed to make sure that the right products go to the right places and that the products can be recycled, so or reused, and they can be broken down properly. So you talk about packaging that can't be broken down, well, then you're not going to be able to reuse that, even though each material component is actually recyclable. The term biodegradable is also very dangerous because everything biodegrades in the environment eventually. It's a matter of time. So there are no real standards and labels all over the world that they're telling us that these products are the right products or that they're actually fitting properly. So there comes the real concern about greenwashing. Are these products really made the right way? Can they actually be recycled? Are they getting to the right place? And I think the underlying answer to all of this is we need to track everything. And there's plenty of technology out there. It's just really the adoption, and companies need to really want to track their products and track provenance as well. And it's happening. It's the ecosystem is growing rather quickly. There are lots of companies doing supply chain tracking, very few companies doing sort of reverse logistics tracking. And that's the kind of the problem that if you look at the circular economy from one specific perspective, you could say that half of it is being tracked, the other isn't. So now we have to worry about solving the other part. And once we have the full cycle being tracked, I think everything is going to change.
Does anybody have anything to add to the last question? No. Does anybody have any questions? Can open to questions now, and then I can do a little pop quiz if we have time, or I can skip that if we have questions.
Hi, you were talking about presenting the Shellworks product as an alternative to plastic to the larger beauty corporations. Did you find that the larger corps took to this, and does anyone have it in the works to choose this alternative instead?
So speaking on their behalf, they have had lots of conversations with those types of companies, and it's strange that nothing has happened. My theory is that if you have a plastic pot that costs you 50 cents to make and a Viva Mare pot is $2, that's really where the problem comes, and that's where they leave. I was very blessed that I had glass packaging that was already cost $2, so I could make that, because it would have been the same question for myself. So we just keep going. And Insia, who's the founder, she just won the Veuve Clicquot Bold Business Person of the Year in the UK. And so I think things like that will start to really happen. And hopefully they would just see that there just isn't an alternative, and it's not all about the financials when it comes down to it.
Any other questions, or then I can let you wrap up?
I will wrap up really quickly. I have a little question. Dr. Perico, if you could invent a beauty product for any superhero, which one would it be and why?
That's great, because I've worked on that for years. It all comes down to really just trying to work in what I call physiologic ways. So if we're putting something on our skin, it should be nutrient dense, and it should be able to penetrate, no toxins, and of course it should have ability to repair. And I think that the approach has always been anti-inflammatory. It will continue to be. I don't have a skincare company anymore, and I can't do it again because I'm in a non-compete, so I'm out of that business. But I'm
Got the water. Well, which superhero would you make a skincare for?
Oh, I mean, in terms of
Like
ingredients?
one of a famous superhero, like Superman, Hulk?
Yeah, I like Superman.
Superman, okay. Ian Learman, if your rooftop hens had to host a dinner party using ingredients from your garden, what would be their signature dish?
Yeah, we have our own headquarters in Brooklyn, and we have some hens up there that we pay a fortune for them to have organic feed. But we've also tried to create a comfortable living environment for them with soil so that they can, you know, lie down and forage. They're very spoiled. Two tried to run away once, and they were just next door, and we brought them back. They were happy, and they didn't try to run away again. And we also plant in the spring organic vegetables up there, things like that. So it's really going to be what's growing. After adopting hens many years ago, I more or less stopped eating meat because I was just marveling at their beauty. They're like these incredible feathered dinosaurs. So it would probably be vegetarian. I would probably have to, I confess, find some really good cheese and butter somewhere. But you would take what's in season and whatever's growing on our roof, and some of the eggs that they provide us that must cost us at least, you know, $50 a dozen just to produce, but it would be along those lines. And lots of great herbs. We have lots of great herbs up there. Not the smokable kind yet, but we have very good culinary herbs.
Okay, so we're going to go to Ian McKee now. If recycling bins could talk, what do you think they'd complain about the most?
This is going to be an insider kind of answer, I think, but it would probably be, there are too many of you around me. Simplify. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, in a lot of places that we make it too complicated for people, and we need to simplify things. We need to sort organics outside of the recyclables and sort landfill. It's the 3-bin system. If you don't go, if you just were in an area where you have 3-bin system, you'll be like, oh God, this is obvious. But you'll go around the world and you'll see that there are, in some places, 10 bins, different types, and in some places there will be 1 bin. So basically, we'd have to figure out. I need 2 brothers and sisters. That's it.
Okay.
What's that?
That bin is off in the ocean.
Yes, even worse. Exactly.
Okay, last one. I promise we're going to go for lunch. Catherine, if you could transform into one of the ingredients in Wildsmith skincare products, which one would it be and why?
I think I would transform into our Vitality blend, which is black pepper, ginger, and cedarwood. So you can wake up in the morning, go and fight the day. And please, can I just answer the recycling question? Because I think
Yes.
all the people in the bin will be like, am I supposed to be here? Am I supposed to be here? Because I'm just not sure.
Thank
Good
you
answer.
so much. This was so much fun. I love it. Thank you. And education.